Get started, I first just wanted to welcome everyone to our inaugural People Like Us campaign webinar. My name is Nicole Granger, and I'm the Executive Director of Fundraising, Development, and Marketing at Volunteers of America, Chesapeake and Carolinas. And today we have a very special presentation titled Media's Impact on Mental Health, and we'll be focusing specifically on social media. And our two presenters are our very own Dr. Cheryl Neverson, who is the Vice President of our Maryland programs at VOA. And then we also have Ashley Brittany Silva, who is a mental health advocate and is also on the board of our VOA Hope Center Advisory Board.
Hi.
Both. And before we get started, I just wanted to provide everyone just a quick little overview of Volunteers of America, Chesapeake and Carolinas and our People Like Us campaign. So many of you may already be familiar, but we are a health and human services nonprofit operating in Maryland, DC, Virginia, and North Carolina. And we're actually celebrating our 125th anniversary this year. And People Like Us is our anti-stigma behavioral health campaign in partnership with Unite Us and the National Alliance on Mental Illness in Prince George's County. And the purpose of this campaign is, one, to really promote awareness around behavioral health and mental health that impact underserved populations in Prince George's County and Baltimore County. And then also, because this is connected to our VOA Hope Center in Maryland, which is a certified community behavioral health center, our goal is to really just let people know about the services we provide to those with severe mental illness, substance use issues, and co-occurring conditions. So I just wanted to provide a little background, and as part of that campaign, we're going to be hosting monthly webinars just like this on topics related to mental health that impact the communities in which many of you may belong to. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and have us take a quick survey. So Donna, if you wouldn't mind throwing that survey up on the screen, we'll have our guests take that. And let me know if you can see that survey. I may need to stop sharing my screen. Let's see. So Donna, did that pop up? I just want to make sure everyone can see that okay.
I was able to see it, Nicole.
Oh, you were? Okay, great.
Yeah, I think we're good. We have 26 participants that answered out of 31.
Okay, great. So Donna, since you have control of the poll, can you read back some of the findings from that?
Sure. Hold on one moment here. So on the first question, what inspired you to join today's webinar? We have 31% that chose A. This topic is important to me personally. 42% chose B. This topic is important to those in my community. C, with 54%, I'm curious to learn more about this topic. And D, with 19%, I'm passionate about this topic and understand it well. And for question number 2, how did you learn about today's webinar? 69% chose A, I received a direct email invitation. 19%, I was invited by someone. 8%, I saw an ad for this webinar on social media. And 15% chose other.
Wonderful. All right, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and get into the meat of our webinar. So Cheryl, I'll give it back to you to talk a little bit about the objectives for today.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so very excited to be presenting today with Ashley. You are in for a treat because I think this topic is really near and dear to all of us. We either are on social media, have kids on social media. Since we've been in a pandemic, we've seen an increase. So what we want to do for you today is we want to provide an overview of social media use among adults and children. We also want to be able to address some of the positive and negative impacts of social media on mental health. We want to be able to provide strategies for talking with our families about social media. And then we're going to, Ashley's going to share a personal story of the impact that social media has played in her life as it relates to this topic. Next slide. So before there was technology, this is what we used. Now, I don't know about you, maybe you guys are, younger than me, but I clearly remember the yellow pages when you had to look up information. I clearly remember my first job here in Washington, D.C. We had pagers or beepers. I had to pull over and go find a payphone. I dare you to try to find a payphone today. And even when you ask your children, what's this item up in the right-hand corner and how to use it, they would say, what is that? I have never seen one of those things before. We used to call 411 for information. So technology has changed the world. So I'm a person who loves the chat. So if you have any feedback or if I'm missing something, just go ahead and throw it in the chat, and I'll have Nicole or Donna to, stop me and Ashley if there's something that you guys want to report, but I want this to be interactive. So please do so. So before we had all of this fancy stuff, this is what we used. So, all right, next page. Okay, so this is social media today. So go back one. So I don't know if you guys recognize, let's see in the chat if you recognize some of these symbols, because I didn't put a name on them. I didn't put a name on them, but can you recognize what's the first one? We all know this one. Let me see what Facebook, good. All right, what's the next one? Who's the first to type in? Twitter, okay, what's this one? Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, Snapchat, and the good old TikTok. All right, so this is what social media has come to. This is where we are today. All right, so let's go to the next one. So one of the things I want you to know that in some way we are all connected. So this is the percentage of Americans with smartphones. So back in 2011, you see us as we continue to grow from approximately 35% in 2011 who had smartphones. And now you see the steady increase where we are today in 2021, where we're almost at 90% of the population have smartphones here in the United States, here in America. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, Ashley, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so American cell phone usage and addictive habits. 80% of Americans say that within the first 10 minutes of them waking up, they check their phones. I know I check my phone every morning before I get out of bed, before I wake my kids up, before I brush my teeth, before I wash my face. I check my phone. 48% of people consider themselves addicted to their phones. Again, I think I'm a part of that percent. 62% sleep with their phones at night. I either have my phone right on my nightstand, or most of the time it's under my pillow, because in case I don't want to miss anything. 83% of people feel uneasy leaving their phones at home. I do not remember the last time I didn't have my phone with me. If I ever left it at home, I immediately went back to get it. I could not survive being out in the streets without a phone. 50% say that they've never gone more than 24 hours without a phone, their cell phone. I've never in my life been without my cell phone for 25%, for more than a day. And 54% say that they panic when their cell phone battery goes below 20%. As I'm sitting here beside you guys, I just picked up my phone and my phone is dead. And I feel that panic, even though I'm in my home, even though I'm on my computer, I'm still able to communicate if I need to, but I still feel that sense of panic, and that my phone is a part of me. And when it's not on, if it's not charged, if I don't have it, a part of me is missing. And I'm sure a lot of other people feel that way as well.
Next slide. So Ashley, just to let you know, you are not alone. I am sure that if anybody can do a reaction and raise your hand on this social media presentation, 90% of all of us will put our hands up or know someone who's like that.
Yeah. And like you said, I think I've seen one since my kids have been older. I think I've seen one payphone, and I remember showing them a payphone, and they were like, well, what do you do with it? And well, you need change. And it's like, people don't even really carry change anymore. They're like, well, what kind of change? I'm like, because of that.
Yes, we have changed tremendously.
Yes.
So yes.
This is how social media has grown by the billions. In 2017, it was almost 3 billion. And now we're in 2021. We're about 3.6 billion. And that number is just going to keep going and keep going up. I'm surprised the number hasn't really increased more since 2007, between 2020 and 21, because everyone has been home and, we're on our phones or on our computers and looking for some way to communicate with people. So I am kind of shocked that number hasn't grown more. And it's saying that by 2025, we'll be at about 4.5 billion people in the world will be using social media.
Next slide.
Now, this was interesting to me because and my phone is dead, so I can't show you guys, but on my phone, it kind of tracks like how long I'm on my phone every day, like the average amount of time. And I am way over these averages right here. So Snapchat, people spend about 20 minutes on there a day, Instagram 29 minutes, Twitter 31 minutes, TikTok 32 minutes, and Facebook 33 minutes. I feel like these numbers are a little low. It's average, but I feel like the people that I know that use these outlets are on them much longer than 30 minutes a day. Next slide. So this is showing us who uses social media. As we can see, the younger 13 to 17, 92% of them use social media. And then as we get older, the numbers go down to where 65 and older, it's about 45% of them use social media. But I think that number is growing as well as they get more acclimated into learning how to use social media. My mom is in the 50 to 64 age range, and she is an avid social media user. She's on there every single day. She's on Facebook. And this also doesn't show us children under 13. My kids are 8 and 13. My daughter is always on TikTok. She's on there daily. All of her friends are on TikTok. So we don't have those numbers yet, but I'm sure that those numbers are pretty high as well. And then here we have the most used, which is YouTube amongst adults 18 and over. YouTube, I'm on YouTube a lot. I love a good DIY, so I'm always looking for something new to do, or just to pass time or watching videos or whatever it is. And then for adults, it's down to 21%. But I know a lot of grown people who are TikToking away as well. So I think that number will probably go up a little bit more. For myself personally, I think I'm more of an Instagram girl. Instagram, I feel like I can get enough TikTok and enough pictures and enough celebrities. And I have like all of this meshed in on Instagram. So I prefer Instagram, and about 40% of adults over 18 are on Instagram. And then we have it for teens, and we see like Snapchat and TikTok are higher for them. They're pretty much the similar apps. Snapchat, I think, is making its way out. TikTok is fairly new. And as we see, it's almost, equal with Snapchat. So that's growing. And as we also see, Facebook is only 2%. Teens and kids are not on Facebook. I think that is definitely for the older generation. I was saying to Cheryl yesterday that my mother cannot go without being on Facebook. And she's always like, well, you need to get on Facebook and thank these people. And I'm like, Ma, I don't know these people, and I'm not on Facebook ever. So a lot of the older generation is on Facebook. The younger generation, Snapchat and TikTok, and then the people in the middle, we're more like Instagram people.
So I'm going to jump in here, and the chat is interesting. I can't wait to go back and read some of the messages. Some people are just like head on. Some people say that they're dinosaurs. They don't understand any of this social media stuff. But it is the way of the world as we're seeing with the growth that we showed. But what I do want you to know that being in social media has an impact on our mental health. It has a positive impact as well as a negative impact. And so one of the things that I want you to know is that in general, as humans, we need the companionship of other people. So we can't, it's difficult to go at life alone. So we need this to thrive in life, and the strength of our connections play a huge part and have a huge impact on our mental health and our happiness. And being socially connected to others can ease our stress, our anxiety, and our depression. And lacking strong social connections can pose a serious risk to your mental health and your emotions. So we do know that social media can have an impact on our connection and that we have with other people. Next slide. So some of the positive impacts that social media can have on us is having the ability, again, to connect with friends and family across the world. So we see now that at any time of the day, I know that I can check on my family members. We can see their pictures and see what's going on. We also have the ability to meet new people, new friends and communities, network with people who share similar interests and ambitions with us. So this can be really positive. We can also have finding communities and support for specific activities. So I know that, my daughter dances, and so there's a dance group community online, so where you can share information and events, sharing hobbies or talents. I know Ashley she's really creative, and some of the hobbies and things in her talent that she's created, just kind of linking and sharing what she can do with other people. And also exploring and expressing ourselves. How many of us have done this or know someone who we really want to make a statement or say something? We can use this platform to explore and express ourselves here. Next slide. We can also join or promote worthwhile causes, such as what we're doing here with the anti-stigma campaign, and what Ashley will talk a little bit about later. But it can raise awareness on important issues. So social media can really So a lot of times people will go to social media and get the new news or what's going on before they even go to the news. So social media will alert them ahead of time. So we can also seek and offer emotional support during tough times. I know that people will post if they've lost something, if they're going through, and then you'll see the wealth of people who share a hug or provide support to that person that's going through something. It can help us prevent feelings of isolation, especially if you're in a remote area, have limited independence, if you're suffering from social anxiety, or if you're a part of a marginalized group. I do know that now, currently, in our reentry facility in our program in Baltimore, that our residents are now allowed to have cell phones where they can interact, with social media to keep up with what's going on in the world. And we also can discover sources of valuable information and learning. So those are some of the positive impacts. Next slide.
Before we
Okay.
get to like some of the negative ones, I was looking at some of the comments and looking at people are saying like it can be positive. People have found their husbands on Facebook. Making a statement, things like that. I was saying before all of you joined is that I have a new baby, my fur baby right here. And the company that I found him was online, but I did go on social media to check their hashtags and things like that. So that was really positive. And I was able to talk directly to other customers and see them with their puppies and their dogs and make sure, everything was good for them. So it does have a lot of positivity in it, but there's always another side of the coin as well.
Yes, thank you. And if you do, I want this to be interactive. So someone said business advertising. So throw in the comments, what are some of the positive things that you see, whether it's with you or whether it's with your children, can put in the chat as far as social media had on their lives. So I know that there's a lot for me. And as Ashley said, if we go to the next slide, it can be negative. So if you don't manage it the right way, which we'll talk a little bit about later, it can have some negative impacts. Now, when I first started talking about the positive impacts, we talked about the social connectedness with other people. So here we talk about being isolated. So you say, well, how can I be isolated if I'm on social media with all of the people that are here? So a study at the University of Pennsylvania found that a high usage of social media increases feelings of loneliness. Conversely, the study found that reducing social media can make you feel less lonely and isolated and improve your overall well-being. Why do you think this is? Because when you're so much focused on social media, your life, like you find yourself not even participating in life. So next slide. So I'm going to talk about the first two, and then I'll let Ashley jump in, because when I did this presentation, she's more updated than me because I didn't know what FOMO was. My daughter did when I asked her later on. She knew more than me, which you'll find that as well. But some of the negative impacts, depression and anxiety. So again, sometimes we need to be face-to-face with people to connect with people, to encourage our mental health. Feelings of inadequacy. We know that even if there are images that people are viewing, and we know that they have filters, we know all of this other stuff, it still makes people feel insecure about how they view their own life. You see people out partying, having a good time, taking pictures, and you look at your own life and you feel like my life I'm not doing enough. So I'm gonna let Ashley jump in here because she had some interesting comments about this impact, this negative impact.
Yeah, and then FOMO, as she said, is fear of missing out. It's just like she said, the idea of that everybody else is doing something great and you're sitting home doing nothing. When I first had my son, this was almost 14 years ago. So at this time, it was just really like Facebook was the only popping thing. Maybe MySpace was like out. You know, I wasn't able to like go out with my friends and things like that. And I would see them post and I would just be so upset. And that caused animosity within myself towards them, that they weren't doing anything, you know, directly to me, but I was just sad. Like, well, why is nobody asking me to go out? Why do you guys get to go out and have fun and do all these things without me? So, you know, I think that that was a huge thing that affected me very early on in social media. And we all know the feelings of being inadequate. I think a lot of times, especially for women, we see like celebrities will have a baby and then they'll post a picture 2 days later, like bounce back, flat stomach, back lost 50 pounds in one day. And we're like, well, I still have all this extra weight and my stomach is still looks like I'm 3 months pregnant. And it's like, you know, for some people that is realistic. For some people it's not, and that's okay. And I do like the space that we are in now with social media, just showing like more realistic sides and showing all types of bodies. And I don't like to say real women because there are plenty of women who do bounce back immediately and they are real women. And then there are plenty of women who don't bounce back immediately and they are real women. So I do like where social media is now, that we are presenting all sides of it and showing a lot of body positivity and showing all different types of, you know, bodies or stretch marks or in weights and things like that. So yeah, I have definitely dealt with, you know, looking at people on Instagram and being like, dang, like, how did she lose all this weight overnight? And I'm like working out and eating salad and I can't lose a pound. But, you know, I had to realize that my journey is my journey and hers is hers. And also I have personally saw pictures online and then see people in person and I'm like, okay, that's not the same person. So also understanding that people, you know, we are able to filter and Photoshop and angles and show the good, you know, what we want people to see.
Yes.
Sister, can I just add this?
Yes.
They paying for them bodies, honey. They going to the doctor and getting it snatched.
And
So
that's fine too. And that's fine too.
yeah.
Thank you, Kim. I recognize that voice. That is so correct. So, and again, sometimes we don't know what we see and we judge people based upon what we see and not even know the backstory. And again, like Ashley said, it can create feelings of animosity, jealousy, anger, when you really don't, or inadequacy when you really don't know what's behind the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide. So again, we talked about self-absorption. So you have those people who take endless selfies and you share all of their innermost thoughts on social media. This can create an unhealthy self-centeredness and distance people from real life connections. And we also, and when Ashley and I was going over this, we were going over this presentation, we talked about a lot of things we agreed upon, but using social media as a security blanket. How many of us have been in a situation where we felt anxious, awkward, lonely, and we turn on our phones and log into social media so we feel like we're not there alone. So if I'm at a restaurant or you go somewhere and you're waiting for someone at a bus stop, and we jump on our phones because we use it as a security blanket.
And even more than that, I think, you know, I know I've done it. If I'm out to dinner with my kids or my husband, I'm on my phone and I'm like, oh my God, that's so rude. Like, I'm not paying attention to them at all. You know, they could be talking and I'm like scrolling in my phone, like, but I'm not really paying attention. And even that, I see people, I'm doing that with my kids or my husband who I know, but there are people who do it on first dates or, you know, when they're out with their friends and these pictures that we see, we're having such a good time. The whole entire time they're out, they're recording or taking pictures. And it's like, you're not being able to live in the moment anymore. And I think that that has done a disadvantage.
Yeah, and with that, and then I'll let you talk about Ashley, the last one, but with that, it's also caused people to be desensitized. So it can help when we see people using social media to record injustices. So because if without social media, we wouldn't be able to see some of the injustice that's been done,
Mhm.
or that's been done so much in the past, but social media and things like this has brought it to surface and brought it to life, which can have a double-edged sword because it brings light to the situation, but it also can be traumatizing to see certain things over and over again. And it also, can be a double-edged sword when you, instead of helping out when we used to, we record situations. So if a fight breaks out, or if you see something happening, instead of a person calling for help or maybe trying to intervene, you pull out your phone and you record it. So again, that can be a negative impact as well. So Ash, you want to talk about the trolls that's out
Yeah.
there?
So cyberbullying and trolls, social media can be hotspots for spreading rumors, lies, and abuse. About 10% of teens reported being bullied on social media. Cyberbullying and trolls is a fairly new word. And cyberbullying, the bully word, I feel like is heavy, but there are a lot of people who are out there behind screens with fake pages who are just mean and miserable and have nothing, better to do. I personally have had people make pages using my pictures. I've had people make pages towards me to spread negativity or lies about me. And I don't think that people realize that you are really affecting someone's life for something that you are looking at as entertainment. We have the whole show Catfish, which has been on for now 10 years. And I'm just so shocked that it's still on. Like, how are people still allowing themselves to get taken by these catfish people and dating people online that they've never seen and sending thousands and thousands of dollars to someone that they've never seen before? Because I'm always like, they're like, oh, my FaceTime is broke. I'm like, we have Zoom, FaceTime, Skype. It's all these ways you can see people now and you don't. But I just had a conversation with a girl who was from, I want to say Russia, and her parents put a lot of emphasis on her weight. And she says she has not FaceTimed them in 2 years because she's gained weight. So I guess, there are people who are out here who are believing FaceTime is just broken for whatever reason. But yeah, shows like Catfish. I was just talking last night about, there is a very popular short series on Netflix right now called Clickbait, and the ending of it is so shocking that this man's identity was stolen and he ended up getting murdered for something he had absolutely nothing to do with, something he knew absolutely nothing about. Someone stole his identity and was pretending to be him. So even with trolls, when we do go to social media for news on these blog sites and things, then you have everyone in the comments who have their opinions as if they are professionals or if they are experts, and they aren't. And it's just so easy now to spew out information as facts, and people are believing it without, doing any kind of research. It's just, if I say ABC is DFG and I'm believable enough, people will believe it and run with it. And that's very scary.
Yes. Next slide. So when we look about problems for teens, here are some of the problems that teens may experience with social media. Again, most of this research has been on teens, but if we can think about our own families and people we know, we also know that people under teenage years are exposed to social media. But again, they can be exposed to harmful, inappropriate content, exposure to dangerous people, the cyberbullying or trolling, which is a risk factor for depression and suicide, oversharing, they can overshare their personal information, exposure to excessive advertisements, and some of these kids may believe that they're gonna win that little commercial, "Mommy, we're rich, we're rich." You think you click a button and you won $1 million when you're really not. Privacy concerns, identity theft, being hacked, and it also can interfere with sleep, exercise, homework, and family activities. Next slide. So how do we know when this has really become a problem? So again, remember that interaction. So we know that if being on social media causes you to neglect your face-to-face relationships or distracts you from work or school, or it leaves you feeling envious, angry, or depressed, then you got to think about, what is this doing to me? If you're motivated to use social media out of boredom or loneliness, or you want to post something to make somebody else jealous or upset, it may be time for you to reassess your social media habits. Next slide. So when we think about the problems for adults, again, this can go both ways. Children can feel this too, but mainly when we're looking at adults spending more time on social media than with real world friends, comparing yourself unfavorably with other people on social media, experiencing that cyberbullying and trolls, being distracted at work, having no time for self-reflection, engaging in risky behavior in order to gain likes, shares, or positive reactions. This is adults and children. When you have those TikTok challenges and you do certain things to get as many likes as possible, some of those things are really dangerous. We can suffer from sleep problems, and again, worsening symptoms of anxiety or depression. Next slide. So some suggestions that we give, that you can give for your children, kids, and teens is sometimes you just gotta follow them. So you need to friend or follow your child on social media.
Another thing, well, I want to jump in there. Kids like to make fake pages, like they make like a page like their parents know about, and then they try to make a page like that their parents don't know about. So you got to like sometimes do a deep dive. And also you don't just need to follow them, because you can follow them, but they can have you blocked from like seeing their stories and things like that. So I like to get my friends to follow them as well, so that they might catch something that I don't, and I don't tell them like my friends are going to follow them.
Good point. Because kids are really, I don't know about your kids, but my kid is so much more smarter than me when it comes to social media. She can trick me all the way. So we need people like Ashley to tell us the tricks to find out how we see what they're doing. So again, monitor and limit social media use. Some people have apps that can do that. And sometimes you just take their phone, or you don't pay for the bill. Ensuring that privacy settings are turned on. This can limit access to personal information. We can instruct them not to share identifying information such as their full names, address, telephone number, social security, all of these things. Like, we need to educate our children that, we need to keep our information private. Next page. Turn off location enabled services. So people won't know, sometimes it'll Facebook or social media will tell you where you are. So someone who's out to do harm can maybe go, find your child where they are. Or I've known people to post something and someone will say, well, they're not at home, so let's go to their house. Explore apps that restrict access to age appropriate sites. And talk to your child. Sometimes you want to talk to your child about any underlying issues. If they're feeling some kind of way, talk to them and not necessarily social media educate them.
One thing I want to throw in for that is something that I like to do personally for me. If I'm like at a public place and I want to post about it, I'll usually wait until I leave to post like that I was there. Because I don't want somebody like just popping up like, oh, I saw you were here, so I'm here too, because that can get a little creepy.
Good point. I'm gonna write that one down too. So we want to teach how social media is not an accurate reflection of people's lives, right? We need to, that time where you see that people can get envious and jealous, we need to teach them that not everything that you see is what it is. And we want to encourage our kids to get out, exercise, get offline, keep them busy. What we find is that when children are, idle, again, remember we say it'll be a security blanket. They'll go and stay on social media. Sometimes children don't even watch TV anymore because they're doing everything on social media. So if we can get them outside, get them involved in activities, that can help limit their time on social media as well.
You know, I always joke like things that we like to do as kids now look at as punishment. Like I'll have like my nieces and nephews over here and I'll be like, go outside. And they're like, go outside and do what? What do you mean? You couldn't get me to come in the house. Like go outside and figure out something. There's endless things to do. What do you mean? So yeah, it's so crazy like that they want to be in the house on their phones, on the computers, on their iPads, whatever it is, playing the game. Right. And it's like, oh, let's watch a TV show. It's like, they don't, and for us, it was different. You know, we had to watch our show at whatever time it came on. For them now, they have the option to watch whatever show whenever they want. So they're like, you know, they're not rushing to the TV to watch their show or anything like that. It's a different world.
Yeah, and if you take the phone away or social media away, give them 10 minutes and they'll say, I'm bored.
Right.
And then if you say, I'll give you something to do, then they'll be like, never mind. So next slide. So what you can do, you can reduce your time online. So there are, and I know Ashley, you said that you can use an app to track how much time you spend on social media each day. You could turn off your phone at certain times of the day. You can not bring your tablet or your phone to bed. You can disable social media notifications only. You can limit the time you check your phone. I bet you if I asked you all to admit how many times you looked at your cell phone during this presentation, or how many times you looked at social media, let's see what, I wonder what % of us will raise our hands to say that's what we did. And trying to remove social media apps from your phone so that the only way that you can check your social media is maybe if you're on your laptop or a desktop. So next slide. So regularly assess, it says access, but it should be assess your social media use. So many of us access social media purely out of habit or mindlessly, just to kill moments of downtime. So the next time you go on social media, just pause and ask yourself, you know, why am I doing this? Sometimes you're just bored. You're not looking for anything. You're not checking on anyone in particular. You're just scrolling to see what's out there. So you want to ask yourself, are you using social media as a substitute for real life? Are you active or passive social media user? Does social media leave you feeling inadequate or disappointed about your life? So think about how you feel after you are on social media. How does it make you feel? Next. So we want to also spend more time offline. We all need that face-to-face time with other people, as we noted to say, to be happy and healthy. So we want to set aside time each week to interact offline with your friends or with your family. Try to host get-togethers, you know, different things like that. You can join a club. Don't let social awkwardness stand in the way. So a lot of times if we're socially awkward, we tend to stay on social media as a crutch, as a tool. So try to get out there and interface with people. And if you don't feel like you have anyone to spend time with, reach out to old acquaintances and interact with them. So if you need social media to reach out to someone, do that, but then say, hey, let's meet up for coffee. Let's, you know, what are you doing? So you can get that face-to-face interaction. Next. You want to also express your gratitude. So when I say that, is, you know, feeling and expressing gratitude about the important things in our own life, so that we can say, you know, I'm satisfied with who I am and what I do. I'm thankful for what I have. And this can try to relieve some of the resentment or the animosity or discontent that sometimes social media can generally bring. So it offers a time for reflection. You can practice mindfulness and sometimes even volunteer. So you can express, you know, thanks to just being in the moment. Next slide. So I'm gonna let Ashley take this one.
Sorry guys, my fur baby is down here being a little psycho. Wait, I'm trying to move everything. Okay, using platforms to help. Online platforms like Instagram, TikTok also provide space to share personal experiences with mental illness, find community support, and work through trauma in creative ways. Access to a wide array of personal stories and mental health journeys can encourage an open dialogue. Social media roles in changing the dialogue could be a critical step in addressing barriers or treatment. This is something personally that I've experienced, that I've helped other people with. I am very open on social media about me struggling with depression. And I've gotten so many people who have sent me messages like, I would never think you suffer from depression. Thank you for being open. What should I do? This is how I feel. I don't feel like I have anyone to talk to. So in those situations, there are a lot of great platforms that are helping with that. And I am helpful. I am happy that, more people are being more open with their own struggles and knowing that they aren't alone. And I think when they see people share their stories, they are more open to share their stories, or they're more open to seek help. And I think that that's a huge thing for using your platform for something great.
Thank you. Next slide. So again, like Ashley said, using platforms, using social media, you reach a large target of people. Remember the first bit of slides that we had, it really showed us how many people are on social media. So imagine when Ashley shares her story to her over 35,000 followers, how many people she's reaching, how many people share her stories of what she's doing. The hashtag mental health has been used in millions of TikTok videos, racking up about 11 billion views. And it's generated nearly 3 million public Instagram posts. So this flood of mental health related posts undeniably normalizes the discussion of mental illness. And we start to see that young celebrities, old celebrities, influencers, and private individuals like Ashley alike, they have opened up about their mental health condition. They share videos and posts addressing their experiences with panic attacks, depression, and recovery. Next slide. So we see when we look at the media or we look at, things online, this is the face that was presented of people with mental illnesses. So you have Split when they talk of, you have, anybody know who that is up there with the hammer? It's kind of old, but Kathy Bates and A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. You have someone coming, Misery, yes. You have someone coming, Fatal Attraction, the movie Discharge. You have when people discharge from the service or the military, then they go crazy, and the Joker and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This was the face. This is when people would say, I'm not talking about it because I don't want to relate to what I see in this screen. But if we click on the next screen, we see that this is the new face of people who have come forward about their mental health struggles. We have Simone Biles, who talked about, who stepped down from the Olympics to deal with her battle. Meghan Markle has been outspoken. People like Pete Davidson, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Chrissy Teigen, Demi Lovato, Naomi Osaka, people, Justin Bieber, Wayne Brady, Taraji P. Henson. I bet you everyone in here can name someone that they know that's in the spotlight who's not on this slide, because people are talking about it. They are normalizing it. And people like us, people who look like us that we can relate to, Black, white, Hispanic, no matter the culture, no matter the age, it's always someone that we can relate to. And when we can relate to someone who talk about what they've been through, then it makes us more likely to say, I can feel comfortable to get help because these are people like me. Next slide. So I'm gonna, you've met Ashley during this presentation. I really wanted her to kind of talk about just her journey. She talked a little bit about it during the presentation, but she shares her platform to talk about, like she said, her struggle with depression, how it impacted her, how it helped her, how it, how she dealt with people who didn't have nice things to say. So those types of things that she has to deal with. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley to kind of talk about her journey.
So yeah, I'm very happy that mental health now is at the forefront because it hasn't always been. When I was a teenager, I remember having a day and I just was like, I never feel happy. Like the greatest thing in the world could happen. I'm like, I just always feel this like constant numb feeling. And then after I had children, it got worse. And I remember having a conversation with my mom and I was like, I'm not happy. I don't feel like myself after having kids. And my mom kind of was like, oh, all new moms feel like that. Everybody feels like that. So after a while, me keep feeling like this and kept saying how I felt, I was like, well, it's like I'm complaining. I don't want to like keep talking about it. But I just noticed myself going down a downward spiral over the years. And finally, about 6 years ago, luckily I had like a doctor's appointment already scheduled. And I remember the day before, I just was in a horrible space where I was crying. I couldn't get myself together. And when I got there, I was so puffy and red. And she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know. I can't explain it. And she's like, well, how long have you been feeling like this? And I couldn't give her a date because I always felt like that. So we went through all these questions and tests and things. And I was diagnosed with having severe depression. I think that was 2014. And I felt like it was just holding me back from my life, my goals, everything. So I decided to, be active about it and start seeing a therapist. And if medication was needed, to get on medication. And I would talk to people about it all the time. And I remember I had a friend at the time and she was like, well, why do you feel like you need to talk to people about it? And I was like, because I know someone else has to feel like this. And we're just so afraid to talk about it. So we're not seeking help. We're not getting help. We're not getting better. And things will never change if we don't talk about it. So once I started Fun Time Moms a couple of years ago, I saw so many moms would just send me messages like, you always look so happy. How do you balance, being a mom and a wife and work and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I lose my stuff just like everybody else. I have horrible days just like everybody else. I think with social media, we call it a highlight reel. It's like people put their highlights up. They don't usually put up the bad, sad times. Now, while I'm not about to post videos of me crying and sulking in bed, I will talk about it because I know that so many other people are dealing with that too. So I started a group recently called Mind Matters with Ashley. And it was just almost a venting space for women to come and talk and know that we aren't alone and know that this topic is not taboo anymore, and to know that there are people that are there for them. And it's been so helpful to me in my own journey. Not only do I feel like I'm helping other people, but I feel like I feel like I am helping myself as well. I don't feel like I have to keep it bottled up because I feel like keeping all those feelings bottled up was a huge part of the reason why I was feeling so bad. And now I don't necessarily feel as crappy anymore. Or when, if I feel like I don't have anyone to talk to, I do have my social media groups that I can talk to about certain situations, because I do know that sometimes you need someone who's biased or doesn't know you directly. Sometimes it can be harder to talk to your spouse or your best friend about things when they are used to seeing you happy or seeing you one way, or if you're the strong friend. But social media has been a big help for me in that way. And I love that I've been able to reach out to other people as well. When I look at people like Simone Biles and even, Naomi Osaka, like when they're saying like, I need to step back, it's something that we haven't been able to do, especially like for Black women. We've never been able to say, this is a lot for me. I'm dealing with a lot. I need some time. I need some space, because we're not ever able to look weak. That's what people look at it as a weakness. But I feel like when you are able to put your mental health at the forefront, that is probably the biggest strength that you can have. So I just encourage everyone I encourage anybody to talk to a therapist, even if you don't feel like you're necessarily struggling with something, just to be able to get an opinion from someone who doesn't know you, or just to, that outsider to talk to. I think it's so important. I see somebody said strong people get the least help. Everyone thinks that they're okay. And I think that that's where I was with it. I probably would have never sought help from my doctor. It was just such a coincidence that my doctor's appointment happened to fall when I was in a really deep space, and I could no longer hide it from her. I've been able to hide it from my parents, from my friends, from my family, from my husband, from even my kids. I did an inpatient treatment a couple of years ago, and I remember I talked to my kids about it, and my son, I think he was about 10 at the time, and he was like, well, I didn't know you could see a doctor because you mentally don't feel well. And I was like, yeah, you can. And I never want them to get to the place that I was at. So I told them, like, if there's ever a time where you feel like you do need to talk to someone outside of me or your dad or like a family member, let me know, because I'm here to support that. And that, I'm happy that the stigma of, oh, well, you go see a therapist because you're crazy, or, in Black communities, a lot of the times is, you don't tell people your business, you don't take outside business, to the streets. We sweep everything under the rug. I think a lot of the older generations were like that. When I first started seeking therapy, I wanted my mom to go, and I still have not been able to get her to go, even though she keeps saying she will. It's been about 10 years now. So, but, even her saying she will go, I feel like is a step forward, because I know my grandmother probably would have never in her life considered it, and she would just shut that conversation down immediately. So I'm happy that the generations, we are opening up to our mental health. I say mental health and mental illness are different. We all have mental health. We all have good and bad times and things that we're struggling with. But one thing I don't want this to be like a fad. And I do see a lot of kids now saying that they're depressed or they're anxious, and some of them really are, but then some of them are just having like a bad day, or some of them are just don't like their haircut, and that's like, you're not depressed. You got a bad haircut. You look ugly today, so you feel bad. But I do want parents to be really open with their children so that they know the difference between, having a bad day and really like dealing with a mental health issue. I'm looking at some of the comments.
So, Nicole, if you have questions for Ashley, or if you would like to, this is the time where we finished our main presentation. So we're opening it up for questions. You can ask questions about the presentation. If you have a comment about social media that you would like to talk about, if you have a question for Ashley and her journey, please either raise your hand or say so in the chat. And Nicole, if you can help us track it, or Nicole and Donna, if you can help us track it, and we can use this moment to bring that up.
Absolutely.
Yes,
We'll be
there's
looking
someone
for
that
questions in the chat.
asked, is there a lot of people diagnosing themselves? Oh, okay, that's a comment. I'm sorry. That was not a question.
Well, yeah, but I do feel like that's kind of what I was saying. Like, I feel like some people sometimes are having like a bad day, or, something, they have had a breakup, and now they feel like, oh, I'm depressed. And it's like, you could be, but you also just may really be sad and just need to go outside and meet some new people. And then that feeling is fleeting and it's gone. So when it's a fleeting feeling, that's not depression. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to give anybody medical advice. But, I would just say, see a doctor, see a professional, on those types, to see if you really are suffering, or if you're just, just having a bad haircut. Because I've cried over my hair before.
I see Linda Kane.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Neverson, and Miss Ashley for the presentation. I just had a comment. I mean, and I think some people may, have friends with children, but I think it's like a cycle sometimes when you kind of see that generational cycle. And I know a lot of different cultures, besides the African American community, are not open to therapy or therapeutic services, including the African American community. But when you see kind of the generational cycle. Like if someone's kid is going through something and you're telling them, being in the mental health field, your kid needs help, but it's almost like they don't want to get the kid help because I think they feel like it's going to be a reflection of them and their parenting of the kid. But it's just really hard to see that. And sometimes I think it's the parents who haven't kind of dealt with their own stuff. So it's like you don't have the mindset or the strength because you've never been to therapy for different things before, or just open to the process to even support your child with it. And I think that can just be, it's a huge barrier that will just kind of keep going and going. If you're not open to it at all. It's just kind of like if your child comes out, LGBTQ community, you don't want to hear it, you don't want to see it, so you're not open to helping them, and it's just not going to help the child. It's not going to help you, and it's just going to be like a black blanket, over the family or your household because the issue is not being addressed.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think that that's why it is so great now that so many people are talking about mental health, because I think that kids now are seeing that maybe they can seek it, outside of their parents, talking to a school counselor, things like that. I know when my son turned 13, he was given like this waiver that he didn't have to tell me what was going on with him at the doctor. And I was like, oh, okay. But I mean, it is their choice. I mean, it's his choice, and he is able to seek, help in different ways. And social media has made that a lot easier. He can just click on his phone and look up somebody in his area, and he can talk to someone if he does need to. Yeah, my mom would have, like I said, she still has not come to therapy with me years later. So I definitely understand that, because I agree. I think that she is afraid that, she'll be faced with some of her own stuff, and she's not ready to do that.
Anything else, Donna or Nicole?
I don't see any other questions.
Okay. Okay.
If there aren't any other questions, we certainly wanted this to be more of a discussion, and we'd love to get your thoughts on the presentation overall. So if there are no other questions, we'll actually throw up a final survey.
Nicole, before you do that, I have a question. Is there anyone here that would like to share about how is there anyone here who used the social media platform to talk about whether it's your mental health or mental health in general? Is there anyone, on here who uses the social media platform to address this topic that would like to share?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Terry Long. Nice to meet everyone. You all have really, really put on an amazing webinar today. My husband and I do a show called Spotlight Over the City, and we spend a lot of time on the show. We have a sponsor right now who is a mental health provider. It's very important to us to get the message out as often as we can about mental health and different stories such as what Ashley shared today. So I just wanted you all to know that we do have a platform. And anytime, you all have, something going on or something that needs to get out, we have a huge following now where you can watch the show anywhere in the United States, anywhere if you have internet. And we welcome these types of topics. So I just wanted you all to know that and use us as a resource, our platform. And it's all Black owned, if that's important to anyone on the call.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Just have a
like
quick
to share?
comment too. Sorry.
Okay. Anyone else like to share?
Yeah, I do too. This is Chaplain Joe. I just want to say hi, everybody, and thank you for this wonderful webinar. It was a tremendous blessing, and I'll just share from a pastoral perspective too. I know, Ms. Shilva, you were talking about how you see something on Facebook, whatever, and then you meet them in real life, and they don't look nothing like what their picture or whatever was in real life. And I can speak from a pastor. This is really hard too, from a church perspective, because a lot of congregants get really upset when they see other people in the church or other people having this perfect life, or I'm so blessed and highly favored life. And the reality is a lot of the stuff you see on Facebook is fake. they're showing you what the illusion of themselves that they want you to see, as opposed to what it actually is. You know, a great example, I tell people all the time, you know, that, you know, this is our family at Yellowstone and we went to the park, and yeah, but they didn't tell you about all the fights you had in the car on the way there and how you almost got a divorce 3 or 4 times on the way to that vacation. And so what's happening is there's an illusion between what we think reality is into what it actually is. And it can lead to a lot of mental health problems in the church, because we just want to say we're so blessed and highly favored, but we're not, to try to impress our church friends or our church circles or whatever. And the reality is we're really hurting and we're really suffering. But in order to, you know, put that mask on to try to impress somebody that we all got it all together and we're so spiritual and we're so all that. And the reality is there's a lot of fakeness going on. And, you know, so this, having webinars like this really is a good example of taking off the mask and really showing people the reality of what's really going on to help people get the help that they need, and not just cover it just because I go to church every Sunday and I'm good. So thanks everybody for this webinar today.
I think that that's a great point, because I know that I've been told, especially in the beginning, it was like, pray, take it to God, you know, and it's like, I've been praying, I've been talking to God. And it's like, you know, sometimes, you know, you need other help as well. So I am happy to hear a pastor talk about that, because I you know, I don't know how you deal with it in your church, but I've heard, you know, church people say that they are not going to go, you know, they're not going to get help. They're not going to take medication. They're not going to see a therapist. They're going to talk to their pastor. They're going to talk to their first lady. That's it.
And that's important too, because there are people that really need that someone professional to talk to, that can really keep their stuff confidential when needed, and really help guide them to recovery. So that's important too, that to know that it's okay to get help. Sorry, someone was about to speak.
Yes, I just wanted to share something quickly. There are a lot of memes online about being a strong Black woman and, you know, keep going and, you know, swallow hard, you can do it and all that. But guess what? I'm a fragile little kitten and I want to run through a field of daisies and, you know, frolic on the beach and all that stuff too, you know, and it just really gets to be a lot. And I'm going to share a quick story. I was working in DC, and I was the only woman in my office and I was the only Black in my office. And one of my duties was to go and get postage and things of that nature. So go to the post office, and it was a really hot summer day. I'm standing in line and it was so hot. I had my eyes closed. And when I opened my eyes, there was a man standing really close to me. And he was sweating and he didn't smell that great. And I looked down, and it was so hot that day. It was very quiet in the post office. When I looked down, he had a gun on the side of my ribs. So I looked at the counter, and his partner was literally robbing the post office. So he was so polite and spoke with such a sweet tone in his voice. He was saying, "Come on, ma'am, put the money in the bag, hurry up, close your mouth, everything's gonna be okay. Just do what I say." And he looks back at the man with the gun and says, "Watch her, man, watch her." So I closed my eyes and I started praying. I was like, "God, I'm about to die. Forgive me for all my sins." And I closed my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, they were gone. And they were so quiet. Nobody in the post office knew that we were being robbed. So I go back to the office and I tell my boss what just happened. And he looks at me, he's like, "Yeah, what, you want a drink of water? Okay, yeah, well, we need this, this, this." And I'm like, my God, I almost lost my life. And he's looking at me like, "You could take it, whatever, just keep going." And I literally got my purse and went home. And I was like, oh my goodness, this strong Black woman thing is just out of hand. And, you know, people take and I don't have any children, but I've seen it, you know, in my family and in the community. You know, you got the kids, you got the husband, some people don't have the husband, and you just keep going and going and going. And I've had people tell me to my face, "Oh, you could take it." you're strong, you can take it. It's like, no, I can't take it. I literally couldn't take it. It was starting to kill me. I was laying in bed and I thought a truck passed by, but it was literally my body just shaking. And it'll start to, that stress and that burden will start to manifest itself in your physical body. And I had to go to therapy. And the reason I went wasn't because, okay, well, I think something's wrong. It was over grief of my father's passing, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. Once I got there and started talking to the therapist, that was the tip of the iceberg. So I'm saying all of that to say, when you see a strong person, you know, reach out to them, make sure that they're doing okay. And a lot of times we'll say, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. Just look at that person and say, I'm here for you if you need me. You know, bring them a glass of water or say, you know what, I'm a person, I'm available for you, you know, and I just think we really need to look out for each other. I'm glad this is a Christian organization where you don't have to be afraid to say, you know what, I'm praying for you. You don't have to tell me everything you're going through. You don't have to share all your business, but I'm here. And I'm going to keep you in my prayers. And sometimes, you know, the Spirit of God will just let us know when somebody's going through something, because some people are just not going to talk about it. But, you know, you could just walk past their office and wave your hand and say a little prayer, you know. And another thing I wanted to say is a few years ago, I had the opportunity to speak to a young white man. And this really shocked me because he was so open. And he said, you know what, with everything going on in the world, he said, I'm so nervous that I'm going to say the wrong thing. He said, I walk on eggshells every day. Sometimes I don't even want to speak if I'm in a mixed crowd. And that just really blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is a young white man and he's feeling pressure in the community. He was afraid that he was going to say something that maybe wasn't politically correct. And he was young. You know, he doesn't know everything and, you know the history of everything, and everybody's learning. But I didn't know that that was that stress out there as well. So we just have to be mindful of each other and each other's backgrounds. And I don't want to talk up the whole afternoon, but thank you for this presentation. It's so timely. I just can't even tell you how timely it is. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. And that just goes, you know, to the point that everything that you see is not what you see. And sometimes social media can show us a side, like Ashley said, a highlight reel. As Pastor Joe said, you know, not everything that glitters is gold. Some things that we don't see. And that's on social media and that's in real life. So again, you have to be able to see what's behind a person. So you can't just look at the surface of anything and make that judgment. There's a lot that went into building me, and I'm sure there's a lot that's gone into building you. So to look at someone and make judgments is not the right thing to do, whether it's on social media or whether it's in person. And if you feel like you need it, or if someone recommends it to you, again, I think that with the face of mental health changing and people starting to speak up, it's okay. You know, hope is here, you know, and again, this may sound corny, but our campaign is people like us. It's because it's people like you, it's people like me, it's people like Ashley, who all are in this together. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Nicole, so you can let people know what they can do if they want to continue with, you know, being a part of this campaign.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cheryl. And, you know, if there are still questions or thoughts or stories out there, we still have plenty of time in this webinar. This webinar is supposed to go until 1:30, but I did want to make sure that we took a moment to share about how you can continue to support us in this work, to promote awareness, to promote healing, to promote hope, and really just break the stigma. So we have a landing page for people like us. It's voa-plus.org. And I'm going to make sure that I email this PowerPoint out to all of you. That way you have the information as well. We also have a Facebook group that we literally just stood up this week. So you can join that, and we'll be providing updates on future webinars. We'll be sharing videos. It'll be a space where people can have real discussions about issues that impact us and our communities. And if you really enjoyed the webinar today, we are going to throw up another survey in just a second. And you yourself have knowledge or expertise in a specific area of mental health, mental wellness, we'd love to partner with you on a future webinar. We're doing these again every month. So contact us, email us at contactus@voces.org. We'd love to chat with you about doing a future webinar. So before we move on, we're going to go ahead and throw up that final poll, that final survey, just to get your feedback from today. We want to make sure that this is an enriching experience for all of you, and this will help us make sure the webinars going forward are just helpful. So Donna, I'll let you go ahead and throw that up.
And again, if you're still, after you complete the survey, as Nicole said, we have about 20 more minutes. If someone else wants to either ask a question, you can do so in the chat, or you can raise your hand and take yourself off mute. Or if you just want to make a comment about the impact of social media on mental health. I do know it's still pretty relevant. As I was watching the news this week, anyone hear the story about how Facebook leaked a story about how Instagram had a negative impact on adolescent girls. So that was a story that just recently came out this week. So every week, you hear about the impact that social media can have on our mental health, whether it's someone speaking out or if it's, something that you actually see on social media as well. And I do know too that the NFL has kicked off an anti-stigma campaign as well. So there are many other people that's joining this mission to really let people know that, it's okay. I think I saw this quote somewhere, it's not mine. It's okay not to be okay. So I just want people to know that as well. And just a plug, we here at the Hope Center at Volunteers of America, Chesapeake and the Carolinas, we do offer integrative whole person care with therapy and other supportive treatments as well. You can get that information from our website as well. If you're looking to talk with someone, if it's not us, we can refer you to someone, or if you know someone who needs help, you can reach out to us as well. Anyone else has a question or comment they would like to share before we end?
Dr. Neverson.
Yes.
We're doing a lot of talking about social media and things you see. I'm solution focused. So what I think should be added if you do it again, I'm big on self-care. It's important to give other options. So maybe talking about self-care and what that looks like, or things you can do for self-care, that you don't do. And Lord knows I don't want to hear exercise, okay? Everybody's not an exerciser, okay? So, real things that can be done with your self-care. For me, when I sit down for self-care, I'm not doing anything. I want to be pampered, whether it's a massage, getting my nails done, whatever it is. I want somebody doing something for me. But, there are also things that I think are important with all of this mental health and this social media and people trying to keep up with the Joneses, and not realizing that half of the stuff, as was said, is fake. It's fake. So I think that's important.
Thank you, Kim.
Absolutely.
I agree. Big on self-care, and I think self-care is so many different things. For some people, it is getting massages or getting their nails and hair done. For some people, it could simply be taking a 20-minute nap, during the day, reading a book, you know, eating your favorite meal, going out with your best friend or your childhood friend who you haven't seen in years. You know, it's just something for you that makes you feel good for you. That's not for anybody else. You don't care if it makes anybody else happy. It could be painting, it could be blowing bubbles, whatever it is, you know, just find your thing that makes you happy. I think that self-care is so important. That's so true.
Thank you. Anyone else like to share? This is interesting. How does social media, how do you use social media? How does it impact your life?
I use social media to keep in touch with my family that's out of town. I literally have family all over the world, Germany, Wales, California, Texas, everywhere. So we keep in touch like that. And for those that can't make the family reunions, that's a really good way to keep in touch. Also, there can be some fighting online. We try to discourage that and ask people to just, inbox each other or, settle their differences offline. But for the most part, 99% of the time, it's just very effective at keeping touch. And, as the generations go on, it's like, okay, well, whose baby is that? And whose mama is that? And, because I get confused. There's so many babies coming and graduations and everything, and it's starting to be faces that I don't recognize because the younger generations are coming in. So it's really, really effective at keeping in touch with family and extended family members.
Absolutely, especially during COVID times when a lot of us or a lot of people had to do Zoom meetings, Zoom family gatherings, Zoom funerals, Zoom birthdays. So social media has played a big part in our life and to impact all of us. So, well, if we don't have any other questions or comments, Nicole, I think we are good to go. And I want to thank everyone for your attendance. I want to thank Ashley for being open and telling her story and being able to help with the presentation and being a big part of this movement. And I just thank you all. We will be doing this again next month. I think our topic is, do you know our topic, Nicole?
Yeah, so in November, we're going to be focusing on substance abuse among seniors, among older individuals.
Yes. So, and we have a wonderful speaker for that event, Dr. Robert Cosby from Howard University will be our guest speaker. So we will get that information out to you all and look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye-bye.